back to the channel. Today I want to take a closer look at something I've alluded to a little bit already, and that is overcharge looping. So overcharge is an action that any mech can take, which just straight up grants you an extra quick action for that round. Obviously this is extremely powerful, because you normally only get 2 quick actions per round, but it comes with a downside of applying heat to your mech. The first time you take 1 heat, the second you take 1d3, then 1d6, and finally you take 1d6 plus 4 heat whenever you overcharge. Obviously this makes it so continual overcharging is usually a pretty bad idea, since a maximum of 10 heat is a huge amount even for the most heat capacitance mechs. However, there is a piece of equipment called the autocooler, which helps us avoid this downside. The autocooler is a system we can grab at Genghis 2, which, if we activate it as a protocol, so long as we don't take damage, move, or exceed our heat cap, we automatically clear all of our heat at the start of our next turn. What this means is that so long as we have at least 10 heat cap, if we overcharge and then don't move or take damage for a full round, we automatically clear all of our heat, enabling us to overcharge again with no fear of overheating. Overcharging every single turn is quite powerful, and the autocooler enables us to do that. However, its downsides forces us to a very specific playstyle. We can't move and we can't take damage, which means we really need to be stationary and ideally at the back of the line, out of danger, so that no enemies can sneak up on us, damage us, and disrupt our auto-cooling loop. Because of this, I really like the Barbarossa frame for this idea. Not only is it a dedicated artillery mech, it comes with a heavy frame trait, it's harder to forcibly move around when we don't want it to be. It also has 2 armor, meaning that smaller hits glance off it entirely and don't actually disable our autocooler, and its core power apocalypse rail requires us to be stationary, something we want to be doing anyways with the autocooler, which means that being stationary for the apocalypse rail isn't as much of a downside as it might be on other builds. Additionally, the Barbarossa comes with 8 heat capacity, the second highest heat capacity in the game, with only the Genghis itself having a greater heat cap. This means we have plenty of leeway for our heat producing shenanigans to let us overcharge without risk of overheating. The Barbarossa license is also useful for other reasons. First off, in license level 1, we get siege stabilizers, which lets us extend the range of all of our ranged weapons by 5, in exchange for being immobilized, which we don't care about since the autocooler requires us to be stationary anyways. Additionally, in license level 3, we get the external ammo feed, which allows us as a quick action to reload a loading weapon, something which usually takes a full action. Now, this does cost a D3 plus 1 heat, which you might think is untenable on top of the already significant heat cost of overcharge, but it's actually quite easy to get to a high enough heat cap such that you can overcharge and use the external animal feed and have no chance of overheating. And finally, Barbarossa also grants us the siege cannon at license level 3, which has an enormous range 30 plus 2, dealing 3d6 explosive damage. It is loading up, which is a problem, but with the external ammo feed, we can reload this every turn with our Overcharge Loop, allowing us to fire the super heavy siege cannon every single turn, something which is otherwise not possible. In addition, this weapon also has arcing, which means we don't actually require line of sight to hit our opponents, something which can be quite relevant since as we are going to be immobilized for most of our fight. If an opponent manages to hide behind a cliff, we won't actually have line of sight on them. However, with arcing, that doesn't actually matter, and we can continue to lob artillery shells down upon them from a range of 30 hexes. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, hold on a second. The siege cannon itself takes 4 heat to fire. Using the external ammo feed is another 1d3 plus 1, so up to another 4 heat. And overcharging gives us another 1d6 plus 4, or up to 10 heat. How are we going to handle a total of 18 heat every single turn on our 8 heat capacity mech? And that is where core bonuses are going to come in to help us. As you might suspect, Harrison Army has a number of core bonuses related to heat capacity and heat management. The two most relevant right now are Heatful Coolant System, making it so our overcharge cost never goes past 1d6 heat, and Superior by Design, granting us immunity to impaired, one of the conditions we can acquire from exposing a reactor, as well as an additional +2 heat capacity. What this means is that instead of having to handle 18 heat, we only have to handle a maximum of 14 heat per turn on our Barbarossa. And with the starting 8 heat capacity, Superior by Design, and the extra heat capacity we can acquire by leveling up, our Barbarossa comes up to a maximum of 16 heat. Enough to handle our Overcharge Loop, plus a little extra to spare. Additionally, if you make it to a high enough license level on this build, I would strongly consider also picking up Armor Sculpted Chassis. You get +1 accuracy on engineering checks and saves, which is fine, but the important part is when you overcharge, you get soft cover until the start of your next turn. Since our plan is to overcharge every turn, what this means is that we get infinite soft cover so long as our overcharge loop doesn't get disrupted. With all of this added up, what we have is a mech which can send a 3d6 explosive damage in a blast 2 within 35 hexes, constantly every single turn, but so long as it doesn't get disrupted, which is more damage at a longer range more consistently than anything else in the system. The downside of all of this is, of course, that you are extremely inflexible on this build. You have to stay in a single location, and really all you can do, unless you get secondary weapons and systems and licenses to support you, is send 36 damage down range, which is obviously extremely useful in a combat-focused game, but sometimes you might find that immobility and high damage is not necessarily what you need in that mission. But that is all for this week's video. Even with that small caveat at the end, this is an extremely powerful build, gated by the fact that it takes quite a while to get set up. To even get all the weapons and systems outlined in this video requires a total of 5 license levels, not to mention the core bonuses that you'll be wanting, which could take up to license level 9 for you to acquire. So with all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you had a good new year. I'm looking to, in the future, seeing as the Pathfinder 2 remaster is now out, to go through some of those and maybe create a couple of videos on that. So look forward to that when it comes out, and I hope that you'll join me when it arrives. But most importantly, I hope you have a lovely day.